And the recording has started. I have 5:36. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Education Outreach and Training Committee meeting. The date is December 14. The time is 5:36. Listen and call in, public call-in number 415-906-4659. Meeting identification 986-140-63#. Okay, shall we begin with item number 1, Chair Hyland?
Yes, please.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Roll call. Member Padmanabhan.
Here.
Member Padmanabhan present. Chair Hyland.
Present.
Chair Hyland present. Member Yankee.
Present.
Member Yankee present. We have a quorum. Agenda changes. As Chair Hyland is aware, I received an email this afternoon, or this morning rather.
Cheryl, let's just take that in order. Let's take it when the item comes up because it's pretty quick. Yeah.
All right. All right. Item number 2, adoption of the minutes for the November 9, 2021 Education Outreach and Training Committee meeting. Does anybody have any changes? I have it up on my screen.
Member Padmanabhan, anything that jumps out at you?
Nothing really. Most of the changes were already put in. I think Mark Norton requested a few changes which have gone in.
Okay.
So we have no additional minute changes or adjustments?
None from me.
None from me.
All right.
Let's make a motion to, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
And I second that.
Shall we open it up for public comment?
Public comment on the minutes, yes, please.
Yeah. Do we have speakers for public comment on the minutes? This is public comment on the November minutes for the Education Outreach and Training Committee meeting.
Hit *6 to unmute yourselves. Okay, not hearing any public comments. I'm going to call it closed. Let's take our roll call.
Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. Member Padmanabhan.
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member Yankee.
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. The motion moved by Chair Hyland, seconded by Member Padmanabhan to accept the minutes without adjustments. Item number 3, Chair Hyland.
Yes, please.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the Education Outreach and Training Committee meeting on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Do we have public commenters?
Anonymous number 3.
Do we have other public commenters? Okay, anonymous number 3, just a moment, I'll reset the clock. Are you ready to begin, sir?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is anonymous number 3. As always, I'll update on some general sunshine things going on that I've discovered. So one of the big things is how different agencies search for records on government property. And as you know, under the Supreme Court case, the City of San Jose versus Superior Court case, the Smith case, when records are on the personal property of an employee, then generally the employee themselves has to go search and decide what records to produce. But that's not the case, even though some agencies like to pretend it is, when the records are on government property, because they have no expectation of privacy on their SF email accounts. So some agencies do the right thing, and you've even ordered, I think, the district attorney in the past to do this, which is they just run the back-end search. And so a disinterested person, usually the custodian of records, the special title person, looks at the records and decides what to give. But a bunch of agencies don't do this. And it's those agencies that for some reason, such as the Office of the Mayor, I'm going to use that as an example, that are much, much slower in producing records. Because they tell each of their employees, oh, go find whatever you want to give on your government email and produce it, instead of using a back-end search, which means we're going to miss more records, and it's going to take way longer to give those records, and individual employees who personally don't want to give over a record, an SF-Gov record, which is owned by the government, won't do so. And so you had this pilot procedural change starting November 15th. One of the things they're supposed to respond with is how they conducted the search. And if you have any question about whether there are extra records lying around, I would urge you to ask them, hey, how did you conduct the search? Who did the search? Did you do it using a back-end search? Did you use an e-discovery tool, as there exists in the city? Or do you just ask people to go turn over what they want? The second thing, which is unrelated, is long ago the news reported the whole thing I'd found about Harlan Kelly and Walter Wong's texts. There's also Harlan Kelly and London Breed's texts. And although they won't produce the vast majority of them to me, I don't know how that relationship could be mostly personal. I have been able to find how to read parts of some of those messages. So we are going to get those London Breed, Harlan Kelly messages one way or another someday. Thank you very much.
Do we have other public commenters?
Yes, please. Can you hear me? Hello, yes, please.
Mr. Warfield, just a minute. Are you ready to begin?
Hello.
Mr. Warfield, we can hear you. Are you ready to begin?
I need to set up my timer thing. If you could wait just a moment. Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com and at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. I'm hearing some scraping noises in the background there. Should I stop or what?
I just stopped the clock on my end. If you're not speaking, can I ask you to press *6 to mute your phone? We're getting background noise. Okay, Mr. Warfield, are you ready to begin again?
Yes, am I going to start over?
No, we can start up from where you left. You provided your contact information, so why don't we begin there?
So how much time do I have left, please?
2 minutes, 28 seconds.
Okay. So once again, this is Peter Warfield, and I've given contact information previously during this public comment, which was interrupted by, some background noise. I wanted to say that it seems as though there are times when things change with the procedures that are important and substantive. One of the things I've noticed is that we've gone back and forth over time, and I no longer can keep track of when and where changes happen and so on. But one of them is with the committees having the business of reviewing complaints before they get to a hearing or some other action. But in the past, it was going from making a recommendation to the latest that I had remembered was not making any recommendation to the full body with respect to the committee's opinion about whether there was a violation or not. And now I see, certainly from previous minutes, that there do seem to be recommendations being made for as to whether there's a violation or not. And I think, well, I guess I'd like to ask, but I'd also like to ask that is it documented whether the committees express an opinion or not with respect to what's going on concerning whether they think there has been a violation or not when they send a complaint forward. Another thing that I have found puzzling is that minutes seem to have something at the end, whether or not it's applicable, saying that the sequence of the minutes may not be the same as the meeting. And I think that can be very confusing, and I don't know that it's necessary generally. I certainly think it would be useful to do what some of the minutes have done lately at times, and that is to give timing for when the item begins and ends. That would certainly help, whether or not you jumble the sequence.
Sir.
Thanks very much.
Are there other public commenters? This is general public comment.
Press *6 to unmute yourself. I'd like to make public comment. Last call, public comment. All right, hearing none, public comment is now closed. And Cheryl, when you're ready, please read the next item. Everyone else, please mute yourselves by hitting *6.
Item number 4, file number 21125, complaint filed by Liza Morosky against the Department of Public Health for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and or complete manner. This is the first time this complaint has come to a committee meeting. I can speak and say this afternoon if Chair Hyland would permit me to.
Yes, bring us up to date on this item, please.
Okay. I received earlier this morning email from the Department of Public Health, Christine Padilla, stating that the person who is most knowledgeable about the information that Ms. Morosky is seeking, the petitioner, could be provided by somebody who a short while ago went on leave. And so Ms. Padilla requested that this matter be postponed. I then forwarded the email to Ms. Morosky, the petitioner, and I CC'd Chair Hyland, and I asked her what she thinks. Does she want to go ahead? And she said a continuance, a postponement was fine with her. And then I heard from Chair Hyland, who said we would move to continue the matter at committee meeting. Am I correct, Chair Hyland?
That's correct. And let's read into the record who that person is from the department. Do you have that handy?
Let me see.
I'm looking for your email, Hill, just so we have it on record, so that person does indeed show up in our January meeting.
I have it in here. Ms. Morosky, yes, she is amenable. Yes. Ms. Padilla said in one of her sentences, on subject matter expert knowledgeable person, Tomika Aya, who can speak to this topic, went on leave unexpectedly through January 2022. Tomiko is the program manager for the adult and older adult populations at San Francisco Department of Public Health and oversees the contract with Conard House. Without her knowledge on this topic, she was unsure we could carry an effective conversation.
Great. Okay, thank you. And Cheryl, if you can make a note to find out when she's back. It sounds like she won't make the January meeting from the way I read that, so it might be the February meeting. But yeah, if you can confirm she'll be back for the, what is it, the January, it would be,
No, I think she said through January, so perhaps our best estimate would be February. I mean, I hate to put it off that far, but
yeah, I'm not sure it was that clear through up until January or through all of January. So find out from Ms. Padilla when she is back, and is she available for January 11th, or are we talking about February 8th? So if you could keep that thread going and let us know, that'd be great.
Okay, I have written a note into my comment into my notes to confirm with Ms. Padilla. Ms. Aya's return.
And I would CC Ms. Aya on that as well, if you can get her email address. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to continue this to the call of the chair, date pending. Looking for a second.
This is Member Yankee. I'll second that.
Member Yankee seconded. And when you're ready, Cheryl, we'll take some public comment on all of that.
Do we have public commenters on this motion?
Anonymous number 3.
Do we have other public commenters? Okay, let's begin with anonymous number 3 then. Sir, are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is anonymous number 3. I would merely say, since this is a continuance asked for by the respondent, and since you don't know when the purported subject matter expert will be back, I would hope that you would also ask the complainant, because the complainant may be willing to wait until, say, January 14th, but she may not want to wait until February 14th, and it shouldn't just kept getting delayed because of what the city claims. So I hope that you do ask her if she's willing to wait until February, if it's not January as well. Thank you.
Is there anybody else like to make public comment on this motion? Hit *6. All right, hearing none, public comment is closed. Please take a roll when you're ready, Cheryl.
Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Moved by Chair Hyland, seconded by Member Yankee to continue the matter to the call of the chair, pending a possible date in February.
Cheryl?
Yes?
Just strike out that last part. I didn't say pending a date in February. Just call the chair is sufficient. Thanks.
Okay.
Right.
Chair Hyland, next item.
Please.
Item number 5, file number 21153, complaint filed by Anonymous against Dennis Herrera for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6729-5A by failing to keep or cause to be kept a calendar with certain minimum information about his business meeting and to disclose them as public records, and willful failure to discharge any duties imposed by the Sunshine Ordinance, Brown Act, or the Public Records Act. And 6734, willful violation constituting official misconduct.
Okay. Are both parties here?
Anonymous number 3 is present.
Great.
Sarasco PUC is present.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?
Yeah, it's John Scarpula for the SFPUC.
Great. Thank you, John. All right, so the petitioner will have 5 minutes to describe, followed by the respondent, and Cheryl will let you guys know when she's ready.
The petitioner is first.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, you may begin.
Thank you very much. It's pretty simple, but it shouldn't be here because this is now the 3rd such violation by Dennis Herrera. You all found that Dennis Herrera violated 67.29-5 for failing to record his locations and general statements of issues discussed in early 2020 when he was a city attorney. You issued Order 19108, if I remember correctly. After that, there was a second complaint. I actually withdrew that complaint because they made a written commitment that they would do this. And so you had a ruling, I had a written commitment, and we closed it off. And I'll read the written commitment from them. I asked on February 6, 2020, what about the for meetings not otherwise publicly recorded, the general statements of issues discussed part? And is this a binding commitment on behalf of Mr. Herrera? And the subject line of that is offer to withdraw SOTF 20007. And the response from the email cityattorney@sfcityatti.org is, yes, we will include the general statement of issues as well, sorry. Both will be part of our property calendar process going forward. That was in February 2020. Now, when Dennis Herrera became the department head of PUC, he's still subject to the exact same law in 67.29-5A. I asked again for his calendars, and they were all 3 business days or more beforehand. And out of the 12 meetings I believe he gave, 8 of them did not have a general statement of issues discussed. His own good government guide from July 2021 states that they have to complete these entries within 3 days of the meeting. I'm not sure how many times we can go through this over and over again. This is not an optional thing. It's not if you have time, if you feel like it. Every time you have a business meeting, if you're a senior public official in San Francisco, you must write a general statement of issues discussed. There is no exception to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody here in support of the petitioner? Hearing none. Cheryl, let them know, let the respondent know when you're ready.
Excuse me, sir. Could you spell your name for me? I didn't hear it clearly. This isn't being timed, sir. I just want to make sure I have your name spelled clearly.
Of course. I think you're speaking to me from PUC, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Last name is Scarpula, S-C-A-R-P as in Paul, U-L-L-A.
And your first name?
John?
Okay. Thank you so much for doing that, sir. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Should I begin?
Just a second.
Okay.
Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So John Scarpula again from the SFPUC. So Dennis Herrera became the general manager of the SFPUC on November 1 of 2021. Roughly 1 week later, on November 9th, 2021, the petitioner filed a PRA request seeking the Proposition G calendar entries from the new general manager's first 3 days in his new position. On November 17th, 2021, the SFPUC produced all responsive records in its possession. 2 days later, on November 19th, the task force sent complaint number 21153 to the PUC, which alleged the entries from the first 2 days of the general manager's tenure failed to contain an adequate description of the issues discussed in those days' meetings. The complaint did not include the third day of the new GM's tenure. The complaint further alleges, without evidence, that these violations were willful. Section 6729-5 of the San Francisco Administrative Code requires department heads to maintain daily meeting calendars, which must include a general statement of issues discussed at each meeting. In its November 30th response to the complaint, PUC acknowledged that the November 1st and November 2nd Proposition G calendar entries did not contain a sufficient description of the meetings held during those 2 days. To correct this error, the PUC produced amended versions of those meeting entries, which contain the general statement of issues discussed at each meeting as required by Section 67.29-5. And this error was inadvertent. The request was for the general manager's first 3 calendar days in office, a time when the new general manager was transitioning into a new office with a new computer system and the like. Any lapse in providing a complete calendar entry was inadvertent and certainly not willful. In conclusion, the PUC took prompt action to provide compliant copies of November 1 and November 2 Proposition G calendar entries and has produced those revised entries to the petitioner and the task force. We apologize for this lapse and have since taken steps to ensure that moving forward, all of the PUC's Prop G calendar entries will comply with the requirements in Section 67.29-5 of the Administrative Code. It should be noted that by November 3rd, the lapse had been corrected and that date is not included in the complaint. We therefore respectfully ask the Education, Outreach, and Training Committee find that the task force has no jurisdiction to further consider the allegations raised in complaint number 21153 and that this complaint be dismissed. Thank you very much.
All right. Is anybody here in support of the respondent? Hearing none. Members, the matter is before you. And I'm just going to jump right in, Mr. Scarpula. I'm going to respond to something you said. The consideration for willful is really an accumulation. That's typically how, in my 10 years here at the task force, we've ruled on it. And yes, you know, he's in a new position, but he's a department head. And guess what? The buck stops at the department head. You know, will we recommend it as that? I don't know. Secondly, to your comments about jurisdiction, we do have a jurisdiction. I think it's important to acknowledge that and ultimately get this on the record in some shape or form. So I just wanted to kind of set you straight on those items before we proceed forward and deliberate on this. Okay, members, the item is before you.
If this is Member Yankee, I have just a couple questions here for Mr. Scaprula. My first question for you is, did SFPUC maintain Prop G calendars for the prior department heads?
John Scarpula, PUC. Yes, my understanding is that the prior department heads did maintain Prop G calendars as required.
Okay, then as a follow-up to that, if that was a common procedure already in place, why wouldn't that have just naturally continued when you had a new department head? I don't know. I guess I'm not understanding why there was some type of breakdown just because department head changed, if that was a routine procedure that was commonplace in your organization.
I can't speak to the previous general manager and his executive assistant who did his calendaring. So I don't know that I can answer your question. I can't speak for previous staff who maintain the calendars, nor the current staff that maintains it. I can speak to that it's a new system that the general manager was working with, and that many of the calendar invites that were put on his calendar came prior to him actually becoming general manager.
Okay. And then my second question is, did you have any conversations with Mr. Herrera regarding this new complaint? The reason I ask is because ultimately it's the department head themselves who is responsible for this, as Chair Hyland stated. And, you know, we found before that this wasn't being done. Mr. Herrera was, you know, in the office of the city attorney. My understanding is that Anonymous, who's the complainant, had, you know, some type of letter or agreement that was also signed at some point in the past. And so my concern would be, because we're talking about also a potential willful violation, is Mr. Herrera himself should ultimately be, you know, aware of and responsible for this. And so is he aware that this seems to be an ongoing issue? Can you talk to about any conversations you had with him directly about it, since he's not present for this hearing?
Sure. General Manager Herrera was notified, so he is aware of this complaint, and I worked with his direct staff to prepare for it.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
I have a question. This is Member Padmanabhan, and I have a question for Mr. Scarpula. Was there a change in staff for when the new department head came in?
That is correct.
Okay.
This is Chair Hyland. I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that. I guess, first of all, Mr. Scarpula, what's your position there at PUC?
I'm within the External Affairs Bureau. I'm Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Okay. And who is Herrera's executive assistant? And did he bring that person with him from the DCA?
His executive assistant is Brittany. Hold on. I don't want to mispronounce her last name. Please give me a second. Give me a second. Hold, please.
I have the name.
Feidelberg.
Yeah, Feidelberg. And I understand that she was with the DCA.
Okay. Question for Anonymous. So is this the same executive assistant you've been dealing with in your previous matters?
I can't promise that Brittany Feidelberg is the person writing his property calendars in city attorney's office, but I'm fairly certain it is, because she's the one who gets notified. She's the one who has the detailed version of the calendar on her own calendar versus the kind of Prop G more vague calendar they keep under the actual person's name. So she was that same exact, she had that same kind of, she was the head of the executive assistant team in the city attorney's office as well. That's why you guys send notifications when Herrera himself is a respondent to her.
Right. And usually we like to have those type of people here at the initial meetings, but as and the petitioner has established, this is an ongoing issue. Tell me, Mr. Scarpa, a little bit more about the new system. What's the name of the new system you guys initiated, and when did that start to go in? New information system?
Oh, John Scarpula, PUC. Sorry, I want to clarify. The PUC doesn't have a new system. However, when General Manager Herrera came to the PUC, obviously he had to, work with our new network. Not our new network. He had to work with PUC's network and get used to our computer systems.
Okay, or or more directly, Brittany had to get used to it as well. Got it. Okay. All right. Member Padmanabhan, you look like you're.
Yeah. So there was a question about the number of meetings requested and the number of sort of violations that Anonymous found. Anonymous, could you repeat? And I see that in the packet too. You said out of the 12 meetings disclosed, at least 8 appear to violate admin code 6729-5. But I didn't hear that from Mr. Scarpula, so maybe I missed. Mr. Scarpula, you just mentioned the first 2 meetings, but there were.
I'm sorry. I mentioned the first 2 days.
First 2 days. Okay, I see. And most of those meetings, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my understanding was the first 2 days contained roughly 8 meetings, and please petitioner chime in, but that there were meetings that were in the 3rd day, I think 4 of them, and those were not included in the complaint, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right.
Anonymous, would you like to respond to that?
No, I think 8 out of 12 is the correct number. I believe that's what I shared in my testimony, and I think I stand by that. So.
Okay.
As in, to be clear, I believe it's if as they said, if you include the 3rd day, it'll get them to 8. So the 8 were the ones that were wrong out of 12.
Okay. And since that date, has everything been corrected and provided to you appropriately redacted with the correct amount of metadata?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, question for Anonymous.
I did not ask for any metadata or anything like that, so nothing. There shouldn't be any redactions or anything like that. I haven't asked for another set of property calendars, so I don't know what they're doing now.
Oh, I thought I did see a reference to metadata, but I could have been wrong.
Oh, sorry. That's not before you in the complaint. There was a request for that. You're right. There's a request for non-metadata and there's a request for metadata as well. But the request for metadata, I did not file a complaint on that. So.
Yeah, you're breaking up there. Could you repeat that last sentence?
This complaint, I did not file any alleged violations regarding the metadata request. This is only regarding the Prop G non-metadata part. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. Members, are you ready to hear rebuttals? I see heads nodding. So we're going to do rebuttals. You have 3 minutes each. I believe, is it respondent goes first or?
Yeah, respondent.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm doing this too long. So Cheryl, let Anonymous, Mr.
Scarpella.
know when you're ready. Thank you.
Mr. Scarpella, are you ready to begin speaking?
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I want to thank the committee again for taking the time to consider this matter. Again, just want to reiterate that the PUC took prompt action to provide compliant copies of the November 1 and November 2 Prop G calendar entries and has produced those revised entries to the petitioner and to the task force. Again, we want to apologize for the first 2 days of Mr. Herrera's tenure with our agency, but we have since made fixes, and going forward, SFPUC's Prop G calendar entries will comply with all the requirements in section 67.29-5 of the admin code. And again, it should be noted that the complaint did not include any meetings from the November 3rd date, as the lapse had been corrected by that date. And with that, again, I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration.
Mr. Scarpella, are you finished?
Oh, yes, I am sorry. I am complete. Thank you so much.
That's fine. Anonymous, are you ready to speak?
I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. This is anonymous number 3, the petitioner. I mean, the violation itself is just completely self-evident. I'm not really sure what to say. They don't deny it. You can see the calendar entries. There's just nothing in there about what they discussed. When they say things like, it wasn't sufficient description, there's just no description. And many agencies come here and say, well, we added more description. There's no description. When you put a subject line that is the 2 names of the people in it, yes, that's a subject line, but that's not what the law says. A general statement of issues discussed. And it doesn't matter how much other random stuff they put in here if they don't tell you the issues they discussed. If I can't have a violation and then a agreement and then a third violation, it's still not it just never rises to any level of enforcement. The Sunshine Ordinance has no purpose, because any person can just keep on violating the law, and the Ethics Commission will never hear it, the DA will never hear it. That's not right. And at the end of the day, SOTF nor this committee can decide whether it's willful. Only the Ethics Commission has that authority. So that isn't really a decision you guys get to make anyway, and that's just how the law is. But you don't get 3 bites at the apple. You can't expect that from public officials. And if that's what the task force allows, you're just going to get more and more violations until someone somewhere is held responsible for following the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any thoughts, directions on this?
All right, this is Member Yankee. I mean, I think it's even though we're obviously not hearing in ruling on the specific merits of the case, I don't think it's really in dispute that there was a violation of 6729-5. So I think, at a minimum, we, move it on with the recommendation for that. I can certainly see that, a possibility of a willful violation as well. I don't know if we want to make a recommendation on that, or more broadly just ask that be agendized as a consideration for the full task force. But, I absolutely do share Anonymous's concern that, here we are the 3rd time with the same issue, with the same individual. And, I think it's great that Anonymous has tried to use letters and agreements to keep this, some of these cases from bogging down, our system here. And then it's very disappointing to see when someone does agree to one of those, agreements that they continue to violate anyways. And so maybe this is something that the Ethics Commission needs to hear. I'm not sure. Maybe we can talk about that more in the full task force. But those are my thoughts.
Chair Highland here. I'm in agreement with direction Member Yankee is going on this. I think certainly forwarding it with a recommendation for 6729-5 and leaving it at that. For now, 6734 is a serious matter, which I think the full task force should probably debate fresh. I just want to make sure that when we do forward this, I'm looking at the packet. I think our original OD is in here. And Cheryl, if you could, when this is forwarded, if you could list that as a separate item and index it, original OD 19108 on the index page, so that can be searched on quickly, that'd be helpful.
This is an OD from a previous case that we want to include for reference.
Correct. This is the OD. It's actually referred to in the packet 19108. That should be included as a separate searchable page. I think it appears within Anonymous's materials here, but let's have it in there in addition.
Okay, I've just made a note to do that.
Right. So it sounded like Member Yankee was making a motion.
Yeah, I can. Quickly, before I do that, do we also have a copy? I don't know if Cheryl has a copy. Maybe this is a question for Anonymous of the, I don't know if you want to call it a consent agreement or the signed letter as well. That would probably be good to include in the packet along with that OD.
Yeah, I was looking.
I will forward the email I have. Is that what that was a question to me, I assume?
Yeah. If you could, Anonymous, that would be great, just so we have everything there for the full task force.
All right. So our OD and Pius and Herrera's memo as two separate items, Cheryl, indexed and referenced at the beginning of the packet for the full task force would be fantastic.
Okay, yeah, I guess at that point then I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion that we find jurisdiction, that the records are public, and that we forward to the full task force for a hearing with a recommendation to find a violation of 67.29-5 and consideration of 67.34 for willful violation. So that's a recommendation for a violation of 29-5 and just general consideration of the willful.
And I can second that, but it's but I'd like to say 67.29-5A.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll make that a little more specific. 67.29-5A.
So it sounds like the maker accepts the amendment.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a seconder. Cheryl, when you're ready, we'll take some public comment on that.
Jaya, you were making a second?
Yes.
Okay. This is public comment on the motion. Do we have public commenters?
Not hearing any public comment on this motion. Last chance for public comment. Please hit *6 to unmute yourselves. Obviously, parties to the matter cannot make public comment on this. All right. Public comment is closed. Please take the roll, Cheryl.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. Moved by Member Yankee, seconded by Member Padmanabhan. To find jurisdiction, that the records are public, make a recommendation to find a violation of 6729-5A, and request that the task force provide general consideration of 6734. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You ready for the next item?
Yes, please.
Item number 6, file number 21152, complaint filed by Jarmi Thu against Ken Pang and the Human Services Agency Investigation Division for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and or complete manner. This is the first time this matter has been heard by committee.
Okay, do we have both parties here? Please hit *6 to unmute yourselves.
I'm present. Jarmi too.
Welcome, Ms. Chu.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Needens. I'm representing the City and County of San Francisco Human Services Agency.
Great. Rebecca, could you spell your last name for us?
Yes, it's Needens, N-E-E-D-E-N-S.
Edens. Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome to both of you. Ms. Chu, you'll have 5 minutes, and Ms. Leger will let you know when she's ready.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Chu, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, good evening, Chair Highland, Member Padmanathan, Member Yankee. My name is Johnny Chu. I have unsuccessfully, I have requested documents and records from HSA Investigations Division, and I was simply denied my request to disclose email communications from the HR and from the hiring committee from HSA. The responding email from campaign citing that I'm not entitled to the records. I'm not sure why. He cited that those personnel records, examination records are confidential, which is, I absolutely agree. But however, I am not asking any of those. I am simply requesting email, team transcripts, and between the individuals listed in the email. And also, more importantly, email between HR, HSA HR to DHR inquiring about my seniority date. Because these timelines are very crucial because I need those to support my claim for to submit it to the Department of Fair Housing and Employment. You may ask why I need those records, because I was discriminated when I request to be reassigned to the Investigations Division, and they have simply ignored me and excluded me, as you can see from the timeline provided by DHR, not DHR, HSA HR. I notified them that I was that my seniority day, but they went ahead with their hiring procedure, and then even though I am one of the candidates and I met the seniority, and I was simply ignored and excluded. Finally, when I contacted the Civil Service Commission, and they contacted HSA HR. At that time the hiring process has already concluded, and I was excluded. I was not even interviewed. So I need those records for me to file a discrimination claim and retaliation claim. And lastly, I simply ask what kind of directive the committee will give HSA to release and disclose the documents to me. Thank you very much.
Anybody in support of the petitioner? Hearing none. Charlotte, let the respondent know when you're ready.
Ms. Neediff, are you ready to begin?
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. So The records that were requested were asking for communication on the hiring process between human resources and hiring managers on the panel. Those are considered human resources or personnel records. The California Public Records Act Code Section 6254C states, this chapter does not require disclosure of the following records. Subsection C states personnel or HR records. Therefore, these are exempt from disclosure. What we did offer to provide Ms. Sue is records that are allowed under the Sunshine Ordinance, Administrative Code Section 67.24E1, which includes the job pool characteristics and employment and education histories of all successful applicants, for which she denied. Or, I'm sorry, declined to receive those records. Back to you.
Are you finished, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anybody in support of the respondent present? Hearing none. Members, the matter is before you.
So I have a question for the respondent. Could you define what you mean by a personnel record?
Hello, I'm sorry, the phone cut out. I didn't hear the question.
Could you define what you mean by a personnel record?
Yes, in this case, communications between the panelists and the hiring manager, as well as the human resources department, typically include information such as a deliberative discussion, recommendations about the candidate's opinions, impressions, evaluations, that sort of thing.
Okay, can I stop there? I don't want a definition in this case. I want a general definition of what a personnel record is.
Well, in this, any information, private information, I think in this case, pertaining in this case to the hiring process. So personnel information about candidates. And what the panelists, the private conversations that the panelists had about these candidates and their opinions as they were discussing and deliberating on their selection, as well as, let's see, actually, generally, that would be it.
Well, this is for the members and Member Highland, Chair Highland and Member Yankee. I'm not exactly sure that I agree with that definition of personnel, of what a personnel record is, but I'm not an expert on this, so
Ken actually consulted with city attorney to confirm, and that was just confirmation for him.
This is Member Yankee. I've personally been involved in these, and I suspect, oftentimes the way that this works is that there will be, and I'm not sure what stage of the hiring process this is, but there's oftentimes, candidates that appear before an interview panel. The interview panel may take, personal notes regarding each applicant. There may be, discussions between them. They may, now in the things are remote, there may have been some type of emailed or Teams meetings or so forth and so on. I guess that's the question. I don't want to get too much into the merits of whether that is or isn't, but I suspect that's the collection of records. And then it also seems that they're asking for, that the complainant's asking for any correspondence between certain applicants and the director of whoever is coordinating the hiring process. I'm not sure if there were some type of back and forth communications between them. I'm not even sure from this complaint if those are applicants who were hired or not hired, but that seems to be the second prong of what they're asking for. So it would be a collection of records, whether or not they fall under the definition of personnel records or not. It's probably more the merits of the case.
Yes, following up on that, I'm struggling with the actual wording of the request, requesting emails between a bunch of names, and then regarding the hiring process. One of the things we help petitioners do is flesh out their requests to actually target specific documents that should exist, you believe to exist, whether it's a hiring evaluation worksheet or something that shows the decisions, or let's say a spreadsheet ranking the candidates against each other, something like that. And again, with the appropriate redactions, I think a more specific request, and I don't know the inner workings of the HSA and how they do stuff, but I think that would help this matter. And we can certainly provide that advice if we can drill down to that. And their response, HSA's response, all communication, records, emails, Teams, screenshots, documents pertaining to the process of hiring among and between individuals and other information is not a public record. Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. That's the part I think that Member Padmanabhan was leading into. So I hate to break it to you, but yes, those are public records. Now, they need to be appropriately redacted. They need not fall, under the personnel record folder, docket, whatever you want to call it. But in general, those are public records. This is a public agency. So let's dispel that notion to start with. So let me ask the respondent, are you an HR person at HSA? Do you know the process? Do you know the documents that are used, to arrive at decisions on hiring candidates? Can you speak to that for us a little bit?
Yes, I do not work in the HR department. I've been with the agency for several years, and I've done multiple hires over the years, so I understand the process. What specifically of the process are you asking about?
Well, looking at the original request regarding the hiring process. So why don't you tell me, especially, the documents, templates, what steps are there in the hiring process at HSA currently? Okay.
So generally, HR would give the hiring manager a list of candidates. The hiring manager would reach out and schedule the interviews, assemble the panel, make sure everyone on the panel is available. There are a list of questions that have been approved by HR. And then the person, or the candidate's interview, and after each interview, and this could vary slightly, but after each interview, generally there's time factored in for the panelists to discuss and score the answers of each candidate. And then once they have completed the interview process of all candidates, they go through their scoring process and make their selection based on the scores, the numbers. Each question has a number value attached.
Okay, and so that's clearly a document that exists, and that could be provided with the appropriate redactions. You know, candidate A, candidate B, and their score, their raw score, or even the score they have to certain questions.
And on the score sheet are generally notes about the candidate.
Right, which could be redacted as well. But what I'm saying is there is a document that exists, and with the appropriate redactions, that is something that could and should have been provided.
Are you asking me?
I am, unless you're claiming it sounds like you're using a blanket claim that your DCA advice has given you that all of it is personnel records and not disclosable. That's not actually true. Is that the position you're taking?
Yes, but what I'm also, I mean, what information, if everything's redacted and there's just numbers, I don't understand the value of that.
Well, that's neither here nor there. That is a public record, appropriately redacted, which must be provided to a petitioner. That's how this law works.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
Let me switch over to Ms. Thew.
Yes, I'm present.
All right. I'm trying to get to the heart of what after here. So your original request regarding the hiring process is a bit general. Can you give us some more detail on actual documents?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, because as you can see from the in the packet on your page 89 and 90, there HR provide me a chronology of the hiring process. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned earlier, I was one of the candidates, qualified candidates with the seniority date. However, from the get-go, HR excluded me, citing they miscalculated my seniority date. And then, but I make them aware of my seniority date on August the 17th. And they went ahead on August 20th they didn't do anything. And they sent the name to the program, the candidates, the names to program for them to interview. And I keep pounding them, hey, what about me? What about me? Because they can only interview the top 3 candidates with seniority date and qualification. And I'm the number 2. And they skip me. And the timeline, therefore the timeline, when the emails were sent out to HR, when HR sent out those names to the investigation, to the hiring units, is very crucial. When they make the selection process is also very crucial, because every week I keep following up with HR, and they said, oh, I have given your name to the hiring committee. And I said, I have not received a phone call to schedule me for interview. So, and finally, on August the 26th or the 27th, I heard from someone that they hired 2 people without interviewing me. So that they selected the candidate, and they did the hiring paperwork, and then they even turned around to ask one of the candidates, after she accepted the position, not to accept the position. Therefore, I'm not actually interested in those candidates' name or what. I'm very much interested in the timeline, why I was excluded. Because on the one hand, I heard from HR, oh, we have provided them the name. And then I did not hear anything from, I follow up with emails to the hiring unit. They did not reply to me, nothing. So until I reach out to civil service. On that day, very same day, they contacted me and apologized and said they skipped me and asked, they scheduled me for an interview. And even that, the hiring unit refused to interview me until the 30th. That's the part. So the timeline from August the 2nd till the end, October 8th, it's very crucial because it's even from there. There were two positions open. They skipped me. The first one they skipped me, even though I'm with seniority day. I'm the candidate, one of the qualified candidates.
Okay, let me ask you.
That's why the whole process is discriminatory.
Ms. Thiel, let me ask you a question. So it sounds like they've already admitted their error by not including the original 3. They've come back later and brought you back into the interview process, right?
Yes, at the very end, yes.
Right. And do you have documents and emails that confirm all that? Because we can help you get that.
Oh, I have screenshots. I screenshots that I can provide to. I only provided the first 3 pages to Ms. Later when I submit that. It's on your packet, page 98. It starts August 17th. That's why I have saved all the documentation. That's why the Civil Service Commissioner I have documented this process all along because I fear discrimination and retaliation from the get-go. And because I have worked in the unit for the last 8 years until I went to somewhere else.
Right. So I see the emails here between you and Ms. Bryce back and forth. So we can help you get those kind of emails. And it looks like you already have them.
This is only between me and Ms. Bryce.
Okay. All right. So if there's other emails that you suspect exist within certain date parameters, that's how I think you should list your request, not a general request for the hiring process. Do you understand? Now, keep in mind that all the stuff that you think they did wrong as far as the hiring process and not treating you correctly, that's not in our jurisdiction. That's something.
I absolutely understand, Chair Highland.
Okay.
Because I only want those records from me to support my claim with the Department of Fair Housing and with the Fair Employment and Housing, and also I file an EEO claim. Yeah, okay. Because I need those to support that.
I understand that. So what you need to give us is maybe an index of dates and communications that you believe to exist, and we can help you get that. We can.
Chair, sorry to interrupt, Chair, but I do not know when HR communicates to the hiring department. I do not have the information when. Must be between August the 2nd and August the 20th when they interview candidates. So must be between those dates. And then also on the 23rd, it says on the chronology that they selected candidates. So there must be some kind of effect existing. Okay, we selected candidate A, B. And then please send me those, the next email will be those candidates, how they process that. The only communication.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the only communication record I have is with HR, Miss Bryce. That's all I have. I saved those. But among the hiring unit, how they communicate with HR. I do not know how and when, but the time frame I have is based on the chronology provided by HR. I have those time frames. Yeah, the timeline.
Yeah, and I'm reading your one of your emails back to Mr. Pang, where you say, I think you misunderstood my request. I'm not seeking personnel files, examination outcomes, etc. I am requesting the following: all communication records, emails, team screenshots, documents pertaining to the process of hiring from July 1st to October 13th, among and between the individuals, and I assume these are HSA employees.
Yeah.
And then you list the names regarding yourself, Marianne Rule, Mohammed Bam, and those names.
Yes.
Okay, so that looks like the meat of it there, members. It looks like that is a searchable batch of emails. I'd like to see a result of that. And back to the respondent, even if those emails are heavily redacted, you do need to produce those and justify in each case why you're redacting each document. Is everyone on the same page with me? Do you agree on this? I see a head shaking.
Yeah, this is Member Yankee. I think it should be fairly easy to, and we seem to have a general time frame. We seem to have specific names, so I think a search should be fairly easy to accomplish with this.
Right. So this is on the middle of page 103, to which the HSA just gave their blanket statement saying these are all personnel records. We don't need to comply.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't agree with that. I think they need to do better, and they need to prepare redactions in each case, have an index of emails, how many emails, what dates, all of that. So that's what I would recommend to the full task force, and obviously a timeliness violation to go along with that, and then we can have our DCA weigh in on what their DCA said as far as personnel records or not. Does that sound like a reasonable approach?
Yeah, this is Member Yankee. I think that's a great idea. I think to maybe have the DCA include some type of memo for a legal definition of personnel records. I think you're absolutely right. That's going to be some of the discussion. I think having that analysis for the whole task force to look at as they kind of go through these records, it would be helpful.
Right. And then respondent, if you want to, waive your attorney-client privilege and put your DCA's recommendation into the record so we can, get to the meat of it, we'd be happy to read that. But I think that's going to be the nuts and bolts of this case. Meanwhile, I would urge you to start searching on what I see there on page 103, compile an index of such emails, and have it ready to send, with appropriate redactions, because I've got a feeling that's where this is going to end up, just based on my read.
Understood.
All right. I think we might be ready for rebuttals, everybody. Respondent, you'll have 3 minutes to go first. Cheryl, please let her know when you are ready.
Are you ready, ma'am?
Yes, actually, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then Cheryl, let Ms. Thew know when you're ready for her.
Ms. Thew, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. The members. I would just simply want to add one sentence. Since these records are very recent, and those individuals should have that, and then I would like to have it sent to me. Oh, no, I would like to have that. I don't think it's. I'm not sure whether it's they need to search, but the individual should provide it to me, because it should not withhold any information. They can redact any information they deem appropriate, but they should provide everything what they have to me. That's all I'm requesting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Thew. Members, the matter is back before you.
This is, I just had a quick question for the complainant. If I recall, it sounds like you mentioned that you needed these records for a DFEH complaint. Is there a specific timeline or timetable or statute of limitations that you have to submit your complaint to DFEH? I have with DHR. I'm yet to be interviewed. I already submit the complaint with Department of Fair Employment and Housing. It's on February the 1st. But meanwhile, I can upload supporting documents to the portal for them to review. Okay, so you're hearing with DFEH, Department of Fair, whatever. I know it's DFEH. Yeah, it's in February, right? You said
February 1st, and then it's the interview, and they will investigate further. But since I'm the complainant, I would like to have all the supporting documents ready.
Okay, so members, the reason I asked that question is, given the backlog of cases for the full task force, this probably will not get agendized until far after. It sounds like she might need them by. So I don't know if we can, I know we can't hear the merits of the case, but I don't know if we can get some type of movement on this so that she could potentially get as much as she can before that, or if we want to consider, we want to try to get this on a agenda faster or something. I mean, I just don't know if it would be particularly helpful for the complainant to, let's say, receive resolution in November of next year or something if she really needs them by February. I don't know what you guys think.
Oh, I appreciate your consideration, Member Yankee.
So, Member Yankee, in the not too distant past, this subcommittee did make orders of determination. I don't think it's anything other than current style to prohibit us from doing that. So that's something to think about. This might merit such an action. It would be unusual given what we've done the last few years, but not unusual given what I've seen the last 10 years, especially given backlogs. It's something that we decided to do because of backlogs, as long as the petitioner was okay with a 3-person committee versus a 11-person full task force.
Yeah, I'm looking, seeing the bylaws potentially.
I would just say that there might be confusion about what the HSA can redact and not redact based on the definition of personnel records, and what is public and what is not. So given that, I feel that maybe we should bring this back on the agenda for this committee, maybe next month, and then do an order of determination.
So this is Member Yankee. I'm looking through our bylaws, and this is the part that talks about this particular committee, but I think the language is essentially the same for each committee. And it says, in addition, the Education, Outreach, and Training Committee shall schedule hearings on complaints to review jurisdiction and the merits of the complaint in order to provide recommendations to the full task force. So because it says we can only provide recommendations to the full task force, I'm not sure if that limits us from actually issuing an order of determination ourselves. I don't know.
Can you read, Member Yankee, what it says about the complaint committee?
Yes, it says the complaint committee shall monitor the complaint process and make recommendations to the task force regarding how complaints should be handled. The complaint committee shall schedule hearings on complaints to review jurisdiction and the merits of the complaint in order to provide recommendations to the full task force. So my concern is that at some point, Chair Hyland, perhaps bylaws were actually amended to remove the ability for committees to make orders of determination. If that's the case, our hands are kind of tied.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because the complaint committee is a little bit stronger in that, we did do that 5-6 years ago. I'm not sure if they were, edited, but yeah. Okay. Thank you for putting that in the record and refreshing us. I think if we make a motion and include some of the language we've been talking about, saying that and just on that note, we're actually acting as a complaint committee at this point. These are new issues. This is not an EOTC matter. So in that sense, it does say we can discuss the merits of the case, as we are doing at this point. So I think our motion should state our disagreement with their position on personnel records provided by their DCA. I think we should say these are public documents and that they need to start, making a bona fide effort to looking for them and index it. That's all things I think we can put into a motion and add a timeliness violation recommendation for a timeliness violation to all of that, just to get everything focused. And in order to get our OD, I think it needs to go straight to the full task force rather than back to us. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think trying to package this all up into a motion where we make all the recommendations into it, maybe the department will make a good faith effort to start down that path. Now, I would hope they would, so that once it comes to the task force, they can make that official order. I don't think we can technically order it at this point, but I certainly think we could make that recommendation here.
Exactly. I think that's the appropriate way to proceed then. All right, who'd like to put that all together?
I think you're almost there. Did you want to?
Well done, sir. Well done. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to find we have jurisdiction to refer this to the earliest possible meeting of the full task force, and state that the complaint committee's position disagree. Hello?
You said complaint committee. You meant EOT.
Well, I'm talking as the complaint committee here, but complaint committee / EOT disagrees with HSA's definition of personnel record and advice from their DCA. And
sorry, it disagrees. I didn't hear that. Disagrees.
All right, let me start again.
All right.
I'll try and shorten it a little bit. All right. We find jurisdiction. We find the documents requested are public, and we're going to file a timeliness and recommend a violation of timeliness. 6721, is it?
Yeah.
All right. That's the motion. Now, to that, you can add notes. Just put notes that we'd like the full task force to focus on HSA's definition of personnel records, and that we disagree with their blanket statement that these records are not disclosable to the petitioner. And we've invited the respondent to provide their DCA recommendation, should they like to do it. We recommend we get our own DCA advice memo on this item. And lastly, we encourage HSA to go back and make a bona fide effort to start searching on these documents along with an index and hopefully provide them on a rolling basis while this goes to the full task force. Give you a minute to catch up on all that.
Yeah, as you were saying it, I was trying to type it.
Right. You can go back to the recording and type it in, but that second bit is all just notes ready to get the full task force on what we think is the correct track.
Chair Hyland, this is Member Yankee. Should we, as part of the motion, encourage this to be agendized at the, I think you mentioned, but I'm not sure you repeated it, agendized at the next available, put like a high priority or next available SOTF meeting, something along those lines?
Yeah, pending.
I was just going to say, I can certainly approach Chair Wolf tomorrow morning, see what he has to say about this. Just tell him that there is an urgency about this particular case.
Sure, I'll make let me just put this sentence to the record. Given the petitioner's upcoming legal cases, there is an urgency on this, and please agendize at the next possible full task force.
And this is Member Yankee. I'll second all that, Cheryl.
As you should. All right. Let's give our clerk a moment to catch up on all that. And then we will turn this over for public comment. Oh, one thing I did want to add, Cheryl, is, and I can reference this on page 103. Where the records request is further defined as, and this is a October 12th communication between Ms. Jarmy and Ken Pang, where she says, all communications, records, emails, team screenshots, documents pertaining to the process of hiring from July 1st, 21 to October 13th, 21, among and between the HSA individuals, Vlad Rudikov, Wayne Hun, Claire Scott, Jose Ordaz, David Tu, Arlene Bryce, regarding Jarmy Tu, Marianne Rule, Mohammed Bam, Fu Nai, and Karen Trin.
Okay, I have a note. I have a note to check on page 103 of the agenda.
Yeah, it's the first, it's like the third paragraph there.
Yeah.
That's a very precise, request for public records. And that's what we'd like the HSA to start looking at that and make a concerted effort to search on that in the interim. All right, and responder, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to respond because we gave the petitioner a lot of time. Is there anything you'd like to add or reply to on any of this?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, you're welcome.
All right, I have a note on the tape where this motion is so that I can get the precise language. You don't have to repeat it, Chris, or Chair Hyland.
Okay.
So I have a note to check the tape and where to check it. Now let me ask you, this reference that you are referring, this reference you made on from page 103, is that an additional sentence you want added in the notes of the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So do we want to open this up for public comment?
Yes, please. And just read the first part of the motion, just so people know what they're commenting on.
Moved by Chair Hyland, seconded by Member Yankee to find jurisdiction if the records are public and the committee recommends a violation of timeliness, violation of Sunshine Ordinance Administrative Code Section 6721. That's the basic motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, Cheryl, let's make that 6725. That's probably more appropriate.
6725, not 21.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does a seconder accept?
Yes, I was just thinking briefly though, if there's
A redaction issue?
yeah, I'm just thinking anything around timeliness though. Remember, we need to remember that this is the portion of time when the ordinance was suspended.
Right. That's true.
So I just want to make sure that we don't cite something that was suspended at the time.
Okay. So are we happier with 21, which is the general?
I thought 21 was the part that was suspended for a certain time that we were looking at CPRA.
Yeah. So maybe 25 is. No, I think it's 25 that was suspended. Immediacy of response, wasn't it? All those periods.
I thought
ID
part of,
first.
Hold on, Cheryl.
I'm sorry.
It could be a justification of withholding 6727. That might be a better.
I mean, there's also, CPRA, Government Code 6253. We can look at, B and C.
Yeah, let's put those two in there. CPRA 6253 B and C.
Yeah, it's either. Yeah, so B says, except with respect to public records exempt from disclosure by express provisions of law, each state or local agency, upon a request for a copy of records that recently describe identifiable record or records, shall make their records promptly available to any person upon payment of fees covering direct cost of duplication or statutory fee if applicable. So, I mean, obviously they didn't make those records available.
Right. Yeah, and let's also cite 6727 justification withholding, and because it shall cite specific. Okay, all right. So it's probably just worth restating that for the record.
Yeah.
Sure.
Moved by Chair Hyland, seconded by Member Yankee to find jurisdiction that the records are public and to recommend a violation of 6725. Sunshine Ordinance Administrative Code Section 6725 for violation of timeliness, California Public Records Act 6253B and C, and Administrative Code Section 6727 for no justification for withholding.
Chair Hyland, this is Member Yankee. I'm thinking 6727 talks about justification. They did, it sounds like, give a justification, even if it is a bad one. I'm thinking it's probably more 6726, withholding kept to a minimum, where it says no record shall be withheld from disclosure in its entirety unless all information contained in it is exempt from disclosure. And obviously that's kind of gets to the heart of what we talked about, that they can redact portions potentially, but not turn it all over.
I agree.
So,
Okay.
27.
So Cheryl, that should read 6725, 6726, and then CPRA 6253 B and C in that order. That should be the motion.
I accept all that as the seconder.
All right.
Right.
So there's a lot of changes there. Do you have that? So 6725, 6726, 6253 B and C.
Yep, got it.
Wonderful. All right, let's take some public comment on that, please. Are there any public commenters who'd like to speak? Please hit *6 to get in the queue.
This is
Hearing no.
public comment on the motion. Do we have speakers?
Shocking. It must be boring the public. All right, public comment is closed. Cheryl, please call the roll.
Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Moved by Chair Hyland, seconded by Member Yankee to find jurisdiction. The records are public, and recommend a violation of Sunshine Ordinance Administrative Code Section 6725 for a violation of timeliness, 6726 for justification for withholding, California Public Records Act 6253B and C. Correct?
Very good. Yep.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, sir.
Please.
Item number 7, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Education, Outreach, and Training Committee.
Members, anything to add? I guess our next meeting will be January 11th, second Tuesday. Other than that, Cheryl, would you like to read the next item?
I was just going to say before we close out on this item that I will speak with Chair Wolf tomorrow and get his input on what took place tonight, unless Chair Hyland, you would prefer to make that call. And, explain to Chair Wolf the urgency in having this particular matter heard by the task force.
Sure. Yeah. Please get in touch with him and let him know that. It's up to him ultimately to make that decision.
Okay. Ready for the next item?
Yes, we are.
Item number 8, adjournment. I have 7:19.
Member, go ahead.
I move to adjourn.
I second that.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
I'm stopping the recording.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone. Stay dry. Stay warm. Bye.
Oh,